Hey class, as promised, this is a video on lab 2, the 2.2 side of it, so that I can show you kind of what you're doing in JASP and what you need to be putting in your lab report. So I'm going to share my screen. First, we'll go to Canvas where you can see the lab instructions. So you opened up modules and you went to lab 2.2. So you're measuring the relationship between objectivity and creativity. So the statistics that you're going to be analyzing in JASP are correlations for this lab. It'll be different for each one, but this one is the correlation lab. So you gave 2 of your people the ISEP first, the inventory of student explanation preferences, and 2 of your volunteers the coat hanger test first, and then you inverted it for the other 2 volunteers. And then you turned in your data sheet to me, and I took everyone's data in the class and I combined it in one large Excel document that I also turned into a CSV file because that's what JASP needs to compute the data and analyze it. So there's that up there if you need to remind yourself about it. But here's what we're doing, right? We're analyzing it. So you need JASP. You either downloaded it for Windows here or you've downloaded it for Mac. Now we're going to analyze it and write up the results in APA format. And you all have a near perfect APA template because that was lab 1. So you need your demographic data here, age, gender, and then you're going to do a Pearson correlation. So you're going to report Pearson's R and you're going to report Spearman's rho. So you're going to do a Spearman rank correlation. Again, both between the coat hanger and the ISEP to see if there's any correlation. So some technicalities, your lab report must be in APA format. Use your APA template and then your APA manual, right? Should look like this. You should have sticky notes all over it and notes and it's what you use here to do well. And then if you still need a little bit of help, you can click on this link here and it'll take you to an example from a different class, different section, different professor, but it'll give you an example. So your lab report needs the intro, method, results, and discussion section, and then obviously your reference page and your title page. So in your introduction section, you need to state the purpose of the study. So maybe it looks like, not that, something like this up here. The present laboratory experiment is designed to investigate how 2 psychological tests are related, but you're not just going to copy paste that, right? Write it in your own words, but this is kind of what your introduction might look like. And then don't make it more than 2 paragraphs. It needs to be at least 1 paragraph, but not more than 2. Then your method section, here you're going to describe what you did. So you need to make sure that you have these level 2 headings: participants, materials, and procedure. So how many, and then the mean standard deviation range of age and genders, and that'll come from JASP in a second. And then for these materials, you need to describe the ISEP and the coat hanger test. So make sure when you're describing the ISEP, you cite Hergen Han 1962. Talk about that. And then the procedure, how do we collect the data? How is the data scored? Make sure that you have that section in there. And then the results. So you're going to write the results of your correlation analyses for your Pearson's R and your Spearman's rho. So it might look something like this, but again, don't copy this. We performed a Pearson correlation test between ISEP and coat hanger test, and they were strongly positively correlated, or not correlated, or negatively correlated, or whatever your results tell you in JASP. So you'll report the R like this, and you'll report your Spearman's rho like that. So this is Pearson's R here. Then you'll get your p-value from JASP and your degrees of freedom. Remember that those come from the 2 sections. So the number of participants -1 in each like factorial design. So for ours, we had coat hanger test and we had ISEP. So if we had 50 people take the ISEP, you'd have a 49 degrees of freedom for ISEP. And if we had 50 people take coat hanger, you'd have 49 degrees of freedom from coat hanger, and you'd add those together, and then you would have your degrees of freedom here. So then you'll have your discussion section. In your discussion section, you need to answer these questions, but not in a bulleted list. Craft your discussion in a way to smoothly address each of these questions, flowing in a narrative, right? Like you were actually writing a lab report. So a good approach is to give each question a separate paragraph. You have to have at least two. It would be cool if you had three additional peer-reviewed journal articles, but you need to have at least two to talk through during your discussion section to support whatever you're saying. So maybe a paragraph for each of these. What relationship was being investigated? Would you expect to find the relationship? Explain the results. If they were measuring what they were designed to measure, talk about that. The possible weaknesses of the ICEP and or coat hanger test. Measuring creativity. Do you feel your participants would score the same on these two tests if you gave them to your participants again? Would you expect performance on the creativity test to be related to IQ? And then what other variables could you test that you might find that would be related or correlated? And then give any ideas or discussion regarding if you think there's a better measure of creativity. So in the future, psychologists should look at this measure instead of this. And then, as always, you're welcome to put in limitations and future direction because we want to see that in lab reports. And then your reference page, right? So you'll have the site for the ICEP and then at least two other journal article sites. It's worth 20 points. And if it deviates a bunch from APA form, you'll get a 0. It's not like lab 1 where it's strictly pass fail, so you could score anywhere from 0 to 20. But if your lab report doesn't look anything at all like APA format, it'll get a 0. But everything y'all turned in for lab 1, it looked enough like APA that you wouldn't get a 0 on that again. So now let me share my screen and go to JASP to show you kind of what it looks like. The data file that I'm using is not the data file you have because I don't want you to copy paste my answers. That would be silly of me to show you exactly what the right answer is. So my data is different than yours. It's from a different semester's class. So don't freak out if your answer doesn't match mine. It shouldn't match mine, but open. I'm going to grab the file from my computer. So hopefully you've saved it somewhere on your desktop or on your computer. Mine's in my download file. So lab 2 from a different class a long time ago. Okay, so here's what we need first, right? First, we need descriptive. So you can see here I have a category or a column for age, gender, the ICEP scores, and the coat hanger scores. Let me see if I can make this bigger for y'all. Let me see what my Zoom's seeing. Okay, hopefully y'all are seeing this. Okay, so these little pictures, we can see we have rulers and we have the bar graphs and we have these little circles. So those are just showing you what the different variable types are. So there's the interval ratio, ordinal, and nominal. So JASP gives its best guess as to what it thinks they should be. We're actually going to make all of them interval ratio rulers except gender. Gender stays nominal, but we're going to click age and we're going to change that to scale. So they're all scales or rulers except gender. That one stays a nominal variable. And you can see if we scroll down, we have 84 participants in this data. So I know I have, when I'm reporting the total number, my N is 84 for this data set that I have. So I'm going to compute descriptive. So I need to click descriptive statistics. And I'm going to put over ICEP and coat hanger into my variables. Just kidding, don't do that. I'm going to put age and gender because those are my variables for demographics or descriptives. So you can see here, it gives you a good mean, standard deviation, and then your minimum age, maximum age here. So that's good for age, but it doesn't give it for gender because look, it says not all values are available for nominal. Well, that makes sense. It can't give you the mean of two different genders. So what you're going to do is display a frequency table. So maybe this is a newer version that I'm used to using. Let me find the frequency table button. Frequency table. And that'll give you it for nominal and ordinal variables. So you can see here the percentage males, females. So we have 55 females and 29 males in mine. So that's what you need pretty much for your descriptive data. And now what about our correlation? So first we'll do Pearson's R. So we're going to go to this regression button and we're going to click correlation matrix. And now we are going to put in ICEP and coat hanger. And we're also going to click, so I have Pearson's clicked here. We're going to look if it's correlated. I want to see the scatter plot. So let me find my button for that. Plots, correlation matrix. So without even looking at the data first, I'm going to put in this correlation matrix here. And look, if you see this scatter plot here, you can see these dots are kind of everywhere. It looks like maybe it's sloping downward. And so as the coat hanger scores get higher, the ICEP scores get lower. So maybe there's a negative correlation. And I'm just looking at that spitballing based off the scatter plot that it showed me. And now let me actually look and see what it says. So I have Pearson's R is a negative 0.106. What does that mean? So think about it. Think about your stats class. To be significant, we need 0.05 or less, right? Is this 0.05 or less? It's not. So officially there's no significance. So even though it looks like there is kind of a negative correlation when I look at the picture, statistically, it's not significant enough for me to say that there was a significant negative correlation between the coat hanger and the ICEP for my data set. I don't know what your data set says because I haven't analyzed your classes yet. But look at that and see what you get. So then you get your Pearson's R and you get your p-value, which you'll need to report. And then all you have to do to get Spearman's row is go over here and click the Spearman button. And look, it makes a new little line here. So now I have Spearman's row. It's negative 0.212 with a p-value of 0.053. It's closer. It's closer to significance, but you can't say it's approaching significance because maybe it's fleeing significance. Who are we to say? You'd need to go collect data and reanalyze and see if you could replicate. But according to both of these correlations, we do not have significance, which is sad. All that work, because you know it can go from 0 to 1, and these are past that. I think that's it. We talked about degrees of freedom, where those come from. Look at my notes. So that was really it. No 2 pages worth of data and handwriting it all via a spiral notebook because you have JASP. You can do it just like that. So let me stop sharing this screen and go back to Lab 2.2's data sheet in your instructions. Is it loading? Yeah. So now when you go to your results section, you have your numbers. And if you want to see, when you click on this external site, other lab option, look, determine the effects of word process, level of processing on word type and recall. Your name, Tarleton State, right? You could change this to ICEP, coat hanger, creativity, whatever kind of title you want to give it. And this has all the sections. So you're going to report in the participants. Here's some of your demographic descriptive data that we just got. Procedure, talk about it. And look, here's this result section. There was a significant, well, you can't say main effect, right? Correlation, blah, blah, blah. I guess this is helpful for the other sections. Talking through the discussion, references, but that's not reporting a correlation. So go back to this example here, where you can see what a correlation looks like when you report it. And then, like I said, for Pearson's R and Spearman's row and your handy APA manual. But hopefully that answers most of your questions. JASP isn't super scary and it's really easy and it's like SPSS, but watered down and just kind of what you need. And so it's much easier to use than SPSS, in my opinion. So email me if you have any questions. And I look forward to seeing if you found significance or not.